Hi, this is Jamie Franklin, curator at the Bennington Museum. Welcome to another tour at 10. Today I am standing in our Gilded Age Vermont gallery here at the Bennington Museum. And I've been standing in front of the kind of entryway to the gallery, which includes a number of historic photographs of Bennington from the late 19th and early 20th centuries. And one of the reasons that I selected these photographs, and one in particular to look at today, was because tomorrow afternoon I'm going to be giving a walking tour of our exhibit across the street, which is in downtown Bennington and features photographs of downtown Bennington from the mid-19th to early 20th century, and places those photographs directly across the street from the sites that they depict so that people can see the changes that have happened in the built environment in downtown Bennington over the course of 150 or so years. I picked this photograph in particular to talk about for today's program, today's tour at 10. This is a photograph by Louis Hein. Hein is probably a name many people are familiar with. Probably most famous for the work that he did in the early 20th century, photographing children laborers across the country, certainly up and down the eastern seaboard, but also made some important stops here in Vermont, and particularly in southern Vermont. This photograph was taken in 1909, and it depicts what is now Benmont Avenue and mill housing. So these are houses that were built by the mill owner so that the workers at the mill could live there. And so these are houses, many of them which still stand today, that are just directly south of what we call the big mill today, known as the Holden Leonard Mill back in the 19th and early 20th century. And of course, Hein is probably best known for his photographs of child laborers. One of his most famous photographs is of a young girl by the name of Addie Card. And she was a child mill worker down in Pownell, Vermont. And in fact, Hein's image of Addie was put on a U.S. postal stamp in 1998, I think it was. In fact, my introduction to Louis Hein and his local work was when Elizabeth Winthrop, who's an author from Williamstown, Massachusetts, wrote a wonderful book, Saving Grace, which was a fictionalized account of Addie Card. She had actually seen that photograph here at the Bennington Museum and wrote this kind of fictionalized account of Addie's life. And it turns out after she published the book, she decided that she wanted to go out and learn the real story of Addie Card. And so she, with the help of a historian by the name of Joe Manning from North Adams, went out and did discover the true story of Addie Card. But this photograph doesn't depict a young child laborer. It rather depicts the context, the life that they lived outside of the mill. Oftentimes, Heinz had a hard time getting into the mills with his cameras. The mill owners, understandably, didn't want somebody just milling around taking photographs in the mill. And so sometimes he would take photographs of the surrounding area. And so when I worked with Elizabeth and Joe to put together a little exhibition of the research that they did into the lives of these child workers here in southern Vermont, I was very lucky to be able to track down this vintage Louis Hein photograph of Benmont Avenue. And it was one of my first experiences kind of researching the evolving streetscape here in Bennington. I acquired this photograph in 2006, so about 15 years ago, my first full year on the job here as curator at the Bennington Museum. I really enjoyed being able to try and figure out exactly where these buildings are and how they've changed over the years. And so what I did was I went to Sanborn Insurance Maps. We have a lot of Sanborn Insurance Maps here in our research room at the Bennington Museum. And Sanborn Insurance Maps were maps that were published by a company by the name of Sanborn in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. And they documented all of the buildings and what they were used for fire insurance purposes. And so as I was looking at this map, I was able to determine that these two buildings in the front right foreground They still exist, but they're not in this location today. They were actually moved after this photograph was taken, and they're still south of the mill, but they're now perpendicular to this position that they were on Benmont Avenue. And so these were moved, and I forget what the name of that street is that runs east and west just south of the mill today. But that's where these two buildings stand. But all of these here kind of receding into the background still stand. They were recently renovated by Shire's Housing, I believe. It's fabulous to just be able to look and research in our archives here at the museum how the local streetscape has evolved over the years. And that's what I'll be talking about in my tour of the Across the Street exhibition tomorrow evening. And I encourage you, even if you can't make the tour, I know it's sold out, that the panels, the exhibits, the reproductions of the photographs and their stories are available. There's 20 of them throughout the downtown area within a block or two of the Four Corners. Anybody can go out, look at those photographs. You can access information about each photograph with a QR code on each panel. And I encourage you to go and walk the streets of downtown Bennington and learn about how the town has evolved through looking at historic photographs like this one of Benmont Avenue by Louis Hein. That is today's tour at 10, and I look forward to you joining us again next week.